Whoa! Man, you always delayed on it. Boom.
Shut up. That's not me. That's your stupid recording system. Shut the hell up.
Whatever. Anyways, welcome to already the 5th episode of the Story Continues cast. I guess it's like a birthday for the podcast because I feel like every time you count by 5, that's usually what's celebrated for things. So we are here with, once again, my boy Night Sky, Steve Esteban, whatever you want to call him, and we just watched King and Queen of the Ring, and that is what this podcast episode will be all about. We already had an episode, which is episode 3, talking about predictions and hopes for King of the Ring alongside my boy Rivera, but now we are past the pay-per-view. We have seen it. We're gonna break down the 5, technically 6 matches, and dive right into it. Mista, you're finally wearing a wrestling shirt on the podcast.
What do you mean? I thought, well, hey, I had the WrestleMania hat on.
That's
for
true.
episode 1 and 2, right? Calm down. I think
true.
I've definitely earned my swag, and but yes, you're very right. If I turn the microphone over, as you can see, I have on the Drew McIntyre versus Seth freaking Rollins shirt. Whoa! From WrestleMania 40. Beautiful shirt. I absolutely love it. And I noticed you have on a certain
CM
what's his
Punk.
name?
And if you
I
would
messed up
look
the name.
very closely, it is actually his AEW shirt from his brief stint in
interesting.
AEW. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have a WWE version, but this is the AEW.
The second son, that's what it was.
CM
Yeah.
Punk.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Good old
It's always
CM
good
Punk.
to have
Look in his eyes. What do you see?
the cult of personality. It's always good to have some wrestling merch, and it's always good to watch some good old wrestling. As I said, King of the Ring just happened. It was actually earlier today, 1 p.m. Eastern. I was working. My boy was loyal and made sure to wait till the end of the day to finally kind of dive in and watch. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to try to trim a little bit of fat off these podcasts and dive right into the analysis. So let's start. And first off, we do want to say there was a 6th match on the show. It was on the pre-show, if you want to call it, or the countdown, and it was Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill defending against, I believe it's Candice LeRae, and I always forget her name. The one girl that's with Candice LeRae. She was in NXT. Indy Hartwell. There you go. So it was that match. Bianca and Jade retained. We actually didn't watch it because we were pinched for time, and we're already recording this podcast super late. It's already bleeding into Sunday, so we just want to dive into it. So we ended up watching just the regular show, the 5 matches. But congrats to Bianca and Jade. I know you're a big Jade Cargill fan.
Oh, of course. Have been since day one of watching. Day one. Of course. But of course, happy for them as always. They are an unstoppable tag team, I do believe. They still don't have a name for them, do they? It's literally just
Bianca
the team
Belair
of
and
Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. I don't even know what you would call them, honestly. The ES Storm, something like that.
Yeah, something
EST
like that.
and Storm, maybe one of those things.
And I'm curious to know, is Naomi still around? I know initially at WrestleMania they were a trio, and then Naomi went for the title, and now she's kind of just fading into, I don't want to say oblivion.
She just technically came back, right? So.
Yeah, she just went for her own thing. So we'll see what's happening there. But congrats for a victory. However, the main show started, and I was howling. Ow!
He was
howling.
He was gone.
It was, Liv Morgan, versus Becky Lynch for the WWE Women's World Championship. And yeah, I guess if you want to take it from here, I mean, how the outfits, the match, how do we feel about this opener to King and Queen of the Ring?
I think before we even talk about the matches, we got to talk about the location, because it was in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, for King and Queen of the Ring. And they kept stressing it enough too, but it's a desert area. They said outside was 96 degrees at night. I'm even hot right now in this room right now, and I got the fans blowing, I got the air conditioning pumping. I'm still feeling a bit warm, but I would feel like that'd be a nightmare out there. However, they did say they were inside, and it was a cool 70 so degrees in there. But crowd was lively. Crowd was, off the rails as per usual when it comes to these international events, so to speak. So shout out to that crowd, of course. It was really cool to see that. But yeah, right out of the gate, that first match there with Becky Lynch and with Liv Morgan, it was definitely a fast-paced match, I would say. And I think it's only solely because Liv, as mentioned, time and time again, this was her quote-unquote revenge tour. She wanted to get revenge and ultimately win that title. And I imagined it was going to happen along the lines of when Rhea Ripley was still, active and, pre-injury. I feel like that was going to lead to a feud that could have been at, this event, or maybe something during SummerSlam or something somewhere else later down the line. However, she did get injured, but an ironic twist, it was Liv Morgan that injured Rhea Ripley and now has ultimately won the title. Well, she could say technically from her, even though Becky, she was kind of the placeholder champion, just for a short span of time. But I was telling Matt RDK here that I feel like now that she has won it and Becky Lynch doesn't have the title right now, I feel like it'll give her a bit more time to be with Seth and their family and kind of relax a bit, because they deserve all their flowers, they deserve all this greatest stuff in the world, but they definitely need some rest, especially after going through all this stuff after WrestleMania and all this. But congrats to Liv. I gotta say, great match. I do like all the movement. Outfits were great. I think we can talk a bit more about that later on too. I know you're definitely paying a little bit close attention there to those outfits, my friend.
I got a crush in WWE. Okay, I'm not afraid to flaunt it. Liv Morgan, she is a spectacular talent, very well deserved to win, but she's my WWE crush. As simple as that.
That's fair.
Simple as that.
Yeah, but I mean, besides that, nothing really else kind of to write home about the actual match. I feel like, I mean, they obviously, like I said, also for the women too, a bit more athleticism, I can imagine, when it comes to some of their matches too, because it's got to be fast paced. If you want to, make sure everyone's having a good time, make sure everyone's entertained, that type of thing. So they definitely delivered on that. But the one thing I think we forgot to mention it too, but I know we got to talk about it, because who else would show up out of nowhere trying to thwart the plan but fucking Dirty Dom Mysterio?
Dirty Dom Mysterio.
Oh my God.
That man's about to go back in the slammer.
Well, we know the real reason why he flew out there to Saudi Arabia. There's no way he was there just to, I want to make sure she doesn't win that time. Yeah, right, buddy. Okay, whatever. Well, first off, not even that. He tries to throw a chair and tries to help Becky out. He's like, here, take this. I want you to, to take her out. But then ultimately gets kind of the roles reversed, and then boom, Liv uses Becky on the chair, slams her face on it, boom, 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 new champion. But yeah, I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but still a really good match.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is where the storyline's really going to get interesting, because was that the plan? Was he actually helping Liv all along? And that's exactly how the plan was supposed to go up all along. There's been that whole build-up this whole time, like with Liv and Finn Balor being together, and Liv and Dominic being together. And the internet wrestling community has picked apart every single hint and aspect. Like, I think there's one picture where Liv is just, like, posing, and there's, like, a little purple bandana, like, hanging out of her pocket. I saw that one, yeah. And people are going crazy. They're like, that's Dom's bandana. And then, like, later in the night, Dom didn't have his bandana. Like, it's, like, this whole love triangle. I don't even know if it's, like a love story angle or what it is.
Something along those lines,
just, like, a jealousy thing to, like, get at mommy, Rhea Ripley. But something's brewing. In general, just to pretty much bounce off of what you had said about this match, I thought this was definitely, and we will talk about this later, but this was definitely the women's match of the night. We will talk about the other match later, which I've got some things to say.
Yeah, I bet we do, yeah.
That first match was just banger, high energy, as you said. I do think they picked the right winner. I made the point in the initial King of the Ring podcast we did episode 3 that Becky is definitely just a transitional champion. She has nothing to prove. She's still going to be a main event player after this loss. Like, she's just so established that, if they're really trying to push this whole Liv Morgan revenge tour, it makes sense that they have to give her the title to really add fire to the flame for this whole Rhea Ripley story, the Dom aspect. Maybe Finn Balor is still getting involved in some ways, but it is Liv's world right now. Ow! And My last point was the outfits. I thought the outfits were great. Obviously in Saudi they have to cover up the majority of their skin, and I thought Becky and Seth always just have the most outrageous, eye-catching outfits. This girl Becky wrestled in a literal suit.
It looked like one,
like
yeah,
tuxedo, if anything. Like she definitely was creative with it. I don't know, like if it was necessarily my favorite. It was a little weird, but it was creative. It definitely was ring gear that would be iconic, and people would be like, remember that one time Becky wore that one tuxedo outfit in Saudi Arabia? And then Liv just went with the all red. What can I say, boys? Oh! But hey,
man.
She is your new
favorite
champion.
part of the whole night, apparently.
We should probably move on before I continue howling for the rest of this podcast. But yeah, I would
save it for later.
I would definitely rate this a strong match. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it just shows that women's wrestling on the big stage can really get the job done. Growing up, like when they were still divas at the time, people always deemed it, it's the divas match, time for the bathroom break. Nah, Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, that is no bathroom break. You are seated, you are watching, it is a good match, and the storylines are finally brewing for the past couple of years for the women's division, and I'm all here for it, man. This Liv and Rhea story is gonna carry WWE's women's division for quite some time.
Agreed. And before we move on to real quick, hopefully all is well with mommy herself.
Yes.
Rhea Ripley. Hope she's doing well. Hope her recovery is speeding along very well. Because the second she gets back, she's gonna have all sorts of rage, either at Liv or at Dom. Who knows what would happen? Maybe we can get to this later on too with what happened for the King of the Ring. But overall, the Judgment Day is definitely having some stuff happening within them. So who knows how this can all play out as well with them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you have the world. Oh, this is actually the perfect bridge before we do move on to the next match. Triple H had an announcement later in the night that is very strongly related to the Judgment Day, that your World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest will actually be facing Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle. I was about to say the Berlin one. I keep getting them messed up. But I think that will be another crack, because I'm going to have the strong prediction that Drew wins the title in his hometown, thus having Priest spiral into either a face turn or becoming his own rogue bad guy. But with that brewing, a looming Priest title loss likely, the whole Finn Balor, Dom, Liv Morgan thing, Rhea on the shelf, like there's just a lot moving for the Judgment Day,
stuff coming
and it would be very exciting to see how that all plays out. I think WWE finally has this element of like mystery and surprise and not knowing what's gonna happen back, and I think that storyline is a perfect example of like, we don't know what's gonna happen. You just gotta wait and see.
It's just a matter of whatever. Something will happen. We just don't know what it is just yet.
Yep. Sure. But the second match of the night was another banger. Like this show started 2 for 2, because it was Sami Zayn defending in a triple threat against You Suck, Chad Gable, and
You Suck, Shoosh.
The exact reason why I said this man's gonna be in the match to take the pin. Big Bronson Reed.
Big Bronson Reed, my man.
Sure enough, as I predicted, Bronson Reed was just in this match to take the pin. Yeah, there were a couple big moments, like the triple suplexes off the turnbuckle. Otis's involvement, which that was definitely peaked towards the end when Sammy ducks and he ends up taking out Chad. That's a storyline brewing right there, the whole Alpha Academy demise. And then you pointed it out at the start that he ended up sending Maxine Dupree to the back. Chad Gable was like,
early on,
I don't
get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
So Chad is just on this whole story arc. I mean, the crowd is giving him the Kurt Angle treatment with the "You Suck" chants, and I think that's gonna be fun to watch. And Sammy, I will give you a chance to speak on this, but I just want to make this last point.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Sammy, I made a short and a whole point about how Sammy's such a complicated character in WWE, just because we never know if he's gonna win the big one. We never know, where his time is at what point. But what I will say about Sammy, and tonight was just another huge example of it, is even when Sammy might fall a little flat, like momentum wise, or even when Sammy is a little out of place and WWE doesn't know what to do with him, when he has these big moments, he shows out. WrestleMania, I had no expectations for his match. I was looking forward to Jimmy and Jay that night. That match fell flat, and it was Sami Zayn's match where I was like, that might have been the best match of night one. For King and Queen of the Ring, Sami Zayn once again put on a banger. That man just, we might have to start calling him Mr. PLE. Like, that man just puts on some good matches. I like that. Incredible storytelling during the PLEs, and you just got to give Sami Zayn his flowers. It was another banger, and I do think this leads to a one-on-one Chad Gable Sami Zayn match somewhere in the future. I don't know what pay-per-view, but I do think that's what's on the horizon. But I just blabbered a lot, so the floor is yours.
That's a very fair take for it too, and only because like for me, I always preface this now too, but maybe like somewhere down the line, if we do keep doing this like series, I won't be a newbie to wrestling into WWE. But for me, this being not even a year into being into wrestling, like already I absolutely love Sami Zayn.
Yep.
Like I can tell, and like Matt RDK here alludes that it's just perfect timing that all these wrestlers are getting their moments now in the spotlight where they can shine, and it's so perfect to new viewers because now you're like, oh my gosh, this guy Sami Zayn is incredible. I love his charisma. I love how he works the crowd. I love how no matter where it seems, like wherever he goes, it seems there's always someone in his corner, that type of thing. And just overall, like, I'm glad he is the Intercontinental Champion. I'm glad they're able to kind of showcase him and his skills and his athleticism. But, props to you to Chad Gable. I mean, the dude, like, strong, quick, and, like you said it too, like that, I guess double suplex that he did on Bronson and both, and Sami Zayn. That looked like that hurt, like, if anything. Like, you're just like, oh, just, like, lifted him back. That's a big dude.
That strain.
Oh, my gosh. But, yeah, really, really cool. And I love to hear the crowd also just chanting, like, you suck the whole time. Just like, you suck.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Good match too, I would say. Obviously, like that moment too, where Otis tries to, clothesline Sammy, but ends up hitting Chad instead. They're like, "Oh, that's it!"
Yep.
And then he ends up, pinning Bronson and getting the, and just winning the match because of it too. They're like, "Yep, that's kind of how we saw it going." There weren't any surprises with that match too.
Yeah.
At least I would say maybe these first two matches, I think I agree with you in saying they were great, but there were no like surprises to it, I think, because you kind of figured it out anyway, which, not to say that ruins the whole spectacle of it. Like, you can know the outcome, but also like be like, oh my gosh, that was still so cool. But yeah, I'd say like that match too was also a really good start to the actual night as well.
For sure. Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that's a cool point that you made, is like WWE especially, and even in sports, you can always speculate like, the 76ers are definitely going to do this game script in game 4. They're going to win this game. But until it actually happens and is executed, like, even if it goes exactly how everyone's saying it's going to go, it's still cool to, like, see it play out. And I think that is super, super, super relevant in WWE, is because there are so many people that are like, this is what's gonna happen, and then by WrestleMania 41, Cody's facing Rock and this and that, and like you talk about it and talk about it, but then when it happens, it's like, whoa, like it's happening. That's how we felt at the end of the main event of night 2 WrestleMania. Like, we all speculated Cena was gonna run out, but until that music hit and it was reality, it was like everybody pops off. Like, that's the cool thing about WWE's, even with any amount of speculation, with any amount of discussion and predictions, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because the reality is just gonna be so hype and fun to watch and enjoyable that even if it's a complete 180 out of left field, you're still gonna pop off and enjoy or have some kind of reaction. And that's what Papa Triple H is just cooking right now.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, honestly.
Yes,
man.
sir.
And like, and I think too, like, there's also they just announced even before, and kind of unrelated too, but they're already announcing so many PLEs like in advance beforehand. Like, they just said SummerSlam for 2026 is gonna be in Minnesota.
They
already have, so yeah, two night SummerSlam, which is crazy. It's interesting to see that they're starting to take the 2-night approach. Because I know you've mentioned it before, and I've seen it all over the place. Like WrestleMania is only used to be one night for years, and you have so much crammed into that too that like by the end of the night, by the main event, you're gonna have people who are just tired, who are like, come on, man, like I want to get out of here, right? Like this is great and all, but like, dude, like where was this 5 hours ago type thing? So I think it's probably a good thing to have be multi-night event too. I wonder if there'll be any other, large scale events that could also transition into 2 nights. One example that could be maybe the Royal Rumble. I know they kind of talked about that, but just something to kind of keep in mind of is like, yeah, they're flushing out more of these matches, which is great, because I'd rather be a multi-day thing than just be, let's throw everything at you at once. It can only be a quick match and you have to kind of rush to get to the bigger things. So props to good old Triple H for starting to shift the gears even more than what he has been doing.
For sure. And as much as I do love that Triple H is cooking and things are going so well, this is the perfect transition to the point I was introducing earlier.
No, boy,
there was one match that I just do not think cooked tonight, and it was the Queen of the Ring finals. Now, as I mentioned earlier, am I a fan of women's wrestling in WWE on the big stage? Hell yeah. I think Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch cooked, put on a banger. But Nia Jax versus, I can't even remember her name. Lyra Valkyria, I believe.
Yeah.
Which I mentioned time and time again. I don't really even know who she is. This is my first time seeing her.
First time seeing her too.
But
yeah.
I will give her flowers. I think she's athletic, definitely a future ahead of her. Gonna be exciting. She had one of the coolest entrances ever. She had like the wings.
The wings, yeah.
And right off the bat, I'm like, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. That's all I had to see. But then she's got like that athletic kind of like move set, always bouncing around, running. So that's my one positive takeaway from this match, is I do think there's a lot of positive future for her.
Of course.
My criticism.
But here we go.
There's two main criticisms. One, Nia Jax just doesn't do it for me. She's been around. I do think she's better when she was around. Like, I'm sure you weren't around when she was first debuting, blah 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 blah, but like people just did not like Nia Jax. Like anything she was in, it was cringe, hated, like just was not good. In ring, she was not good, blah 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 blah. Has she improved now? Yeah, I do think character-wise she has a little more personality. I don't know if maybe that's the Triple H effect. Now that he's in charge, maybe there's more freedom for her to express herself and put more of her own personal spin into her character. But I just feel like the in-ring is still just not doing it. I don't think like the Giants in general, whether it's Big Show, Great Khali, you name it, I just don't think they're very good for, like, Omos is a great example nowadays. They're just not good for in-ring like 5-star matches. They're never gonna put on a 5-star match. Like,
that's a very good take too. I'm sorry to interrupt you for that too, but just to kind of, what came in the back of my mind, or like what I just thought of again, was so before WrestleMania this year, I was telling him I did a bunch of research for some stuff, and I watched last year's WrestleMania, and it's funny you say that too, because I remember, I think I even watched with my brother. It was the first match of night 2. It was Omos versus Brock Lesnar, and I'm just like, this is great. These guys are strong, but like, I don't know, man. Like, it's really just the same thing. Like, you try a move, like, no effect. Try again, no effect. But if I do it this way, oh, you got me. And then like it just kind of goes like that. That's kind of how it was for this fight too, for Queen of the Ring. Yeah. I will say though, like, out of everyone who entered the tournament, I mean, I don't really remember like how we started out, but I do remember like the key figures of how Nia Jax took out Jade Cargill and oh my God, Bianca Belair, right? And one reason is because you don't want those two to fight each other for Queen of the Ring because they're already tag team. Blah blah. No, that makes sense, right? But apparently there was, I don't know if you like saw any of the highlights. Like, I think I did. I could be wrong about this. Please don't flame me in the comments. I'm still new. Please. But I think Nia won against Jade because of disqualification or something. Yeah. Something like that. But then I think she actually just took down Bianca like an actual kind of a fair match. But like, out of everyone else who entered for Queen of the Ring, I mean, it makes sense to kind of give people who don't normally get that spotlight like that, or that chance to kind of solidify themselves in something, or like achieve something they haven't before. So there's that, right? But at the same time, I would agree with you. The way that it was just kind of put out, like, it's a finals. It's like an ultimate, like, you're fighting for the crown ultimately, right? And so, when you have kind of a limited moveset already, and when there's, weight classes in this point, at least from what I've seen, they necessarily don't matter as much because, like, you could be a heavyweight where you could still fall to, like, a lightweight or cruiserweight, whatever you want to call it, right? But I think for the most part, I would agree with you in saying that this one just wasn't as, as entertaining as much because, like, at least, and you can talk about it too, but the ending point of that match, where she literally just dropped on her on Lyra, and like I'm like, oh yep, there goes your stomach, your chest, and she just sits there and the ref counts it. I'm like, yeah, well, she won. Yeah, that's great. Congratulations, you're the queen of the ring. Yeah, but that's what at least my take from it.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's the exact vibe I got. Is like that's why I feel like Nia Jax doesn't work for me. Not only does she have the giant move set working against her, just because I feel like it's not. I don't want to say it's not entertaining, but it's not PLE one-on-one match worthy. Like, it's cool when you're in a Royal Rumble. It's cool if you're in, like, a specialty match, like a triple threat. But it's just not good for a one-on-one match. But then, it's just, like, even with her, like, showing more personality, like, I wasn't with it. Like, I wasn't with the, like, let's sit on her, have no emotion, put on the crown, have no emotion.
I feel like the crowd would agree with you, too, for that, too, right?
She did have the nice little moment with Triple H where, like, she was crying and, like, showing, like, a little bit of emotion, which is awesome. But, like, I don't know, just the match fell flat. Like, it was, like, the whole David versus Goliath thing, which, like, we've seen it 100 times. Like,
you will continue to see it, too.
100%. They're always going to do it. They're always going to do it. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to be a hater. I'm not saying I hated the match. It was just more like it was there. We're going to watch it because we have to. But I think if you had someone like Tiffany Stratton in there, or even if Bianca or Jade made it, like, it just could have been such a better PLE match, because those ladies are so capable of putting on bangers and holding their own with the high flying moves, the powerhouse moves, but a deeper bag of wrestling moves. When Nia Jax is like, I'm gonna sit on you, I'm gonna pick you up and throw you down. Like, yeah, right. So that's kind of all I really have to say about that match. I mean, congratulations. It is well deserved. She's been in WWE for a while and never really won a title, so this is her first, like, moment, as we talked about, giving a lot of different superstars moments. So congrats to Nia Jax, the queen. But yeah, I mean, I probably would have booked it differently if I was in Triple H's shoes, but I don't know, maybe it was like a ratings thing, like maybe Nia Jax is big in Saudi Arabia. I don't know, but I think we should.
Well, she's big everywhere she goes. I think that's the bottom line, right?
We're getting canceled.
I'm sorry. The joke was there. I'm sorry. Please, I'm new to wrestling. Please say that.
Well, the King of the Ring happened.
The King of the Ring happened. Now on the other side of the coin of that. Oh my gosh. Well, so, I mean, I'll let you talk after this too, but at least for my first part about it too, right? I think when you talk about booking, that is good booking right there. You have someone, the Ring General, Gunther himself, against the Viper, Randy Orton, with those voices in his head. Oh my gosh! Like, first off, are unmatched for both of them, right? They're walking out, people are booing them, people are cheering them, people are singing along, you name it. But great match, both good athletes, and I think those are good examples of, like, they're bigger guys. Like, I don't even know how tall Gunther is, but, like, he looks like he's like a unit, right? Same thing with Randy, right? Randy looked juiced up, he looked ready to go, but when you use that besides just like regular moves, like, for at least for Nia Jax, the pick up, the drop, the sit on, whatever, but like when you're doing all like these movements, when you got the chops coming from Gunther, when you have the RKO, all these different ways of actually moving around the ring, it's entertaining when it makes sense for a PLE, and it's cool because these two have something to prove as well. It's not so much like where for Queen of the Ring, maybe, like, going back to your point too, maybe have someone who probably has a couple accolades too, but no, then again, like, this is something that the first timers can also achieve too. But like, it makes sense for Randy Orton, who's already a legend in WWE and who's already accomplished so much, trying to go and become the king. Whereas you have Gunther, he was already Intercontinental Champion, and he's already had a bunch of stuff too, even coming up from his earlier days. You have a chance for him to do something new as well, and so I think that has a lot more on the line for them, and that's why this is such an entertaining match.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was a complete 180. You could even tell with the crowd, like from the Nia Jax match, where they're just like boo, boo, and then like Gunther, and especially when Randy came out, and the crowd's just going crazy. They're like, everybody get up! They're singing along. I hear voices, like they're just into it. And I mean, at the end of the day, that is an unfair comparison. You're comparing Randy Orton to Nia Jax. It's Randy Orton, that's an unfair comparison. But this match definitely, as you said, complete banger, very PLE worthy. If Cody Rhodes wasn't on the roster and wasn't on the card, very much could have main evented the entire show. Randy Orton and Gunther. And yeah, I mean, aura unmatched. I think the match itself was really good. Randy was really selling the numerous injuries this poor man has, because this man is getting old.
The knee,
and then the roast beef chest from the Gunther chops.
Oh my god!
And then the slow-mo with the sweat.
That's just like reverb around, like, oh my god! Like the human body should not do that. First off, so it looked so unsettling. You're just like, oh.
Insane. It was a damn good match, and although I'm not too big of a fan of roll-up pins on like a big PLE, I didn't mind it here because I feel like it kind of protects Randy in the fact that like he has all these injuries and like he didn't lose like due to like KO or anything. Like he didn't like take a finisher and then just lie there for 3 seconds. Like, it was like he's trying to like sell his knee, but he's also like pinned down for the pin. And Corey Graves kind of mentioned it at the end. He's like, I want to see another angle of that pinfall, because you can see Randy's shoulders up.
So I just like checked out, like I think it was Twitter or something, or even like Instagram. But apparently, I don't know who the guy who interviewed everyone at the end. I forget his name, but he asked him. He says there's a bit of controversy going on right now. A lot like the online community was pointing out as well. They said that it looks like Randy's arm or whatever was up, and it looked like he wasn't getting pinned there. And he asked. I don't think I finished it, but I think he said along the lines like, "What? Do you have anything worse to say about it?" And they asked Triple H, and he said, "Well, from my angle too, I saw basically what everyone else saw." And he said, I didn't think it was that much of a big deal. However, it might be worth taking a look at, but like at that point, what's done is done. But I think if anything, kind of what you just said too, it might have been just because Randy's trying to, they're trying to make sure Randy's still okay, while trying to sell the injuries, while trying also to do the rolling pin, like you said. But I was surprised that people kind of picked up on that pretty quickly. And I'm interested too interesting that the commentators also felt the same way. So who knows? Is he the king of the ring?
Storyline there, I think. It just at the end of the day, this is a great matchup, but it's like you didn't want to like completely squash one of the guys, Which at the end of the day, I feel like you can't really squash Randy Orton. So I feel like it was more like about protecting Gunther's momentum and his portrayal as like a monster, while also at the end of the day still not trying to hurt Randy Orton, So like I do think it was really good, really well executed. Gunther was my pick to win it all anyways. I think the whole King of the Ring just fits him and his character. He's so composed and whatnot, like he just gives off the king vibe. I think he's gonna have a great run as king. And it's looking like, and I believe off cam when we were just watching it, I said it too. And this was before Triple H announced the whole Drew McIntyre thing. I was like, Gunther's gonna win King of the Ring, have a whole reign with the crown, but then he gets the title shot at SummerSlam. He's on Raw, which means he's challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther's not gonna face Damian Priest at SummerSlam. That's just not a match people want to see.
That makes no sense.
So Drew is gonna win the title. It'll be Drew and Gunther, who already have a history at SummerSlam. That's gonna be a World Heavyweight Championship match. And then if Drew wins, carries it, Drew Punk somewhere down the line, you name it, it can go in so many different ways. But I do think it's going to be Gunther and Drew at SummerSlam, World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe they'll finally strap up the Ring General with the world title. We'll have to see. But I'm interested to see where Randy goes, because obviously a lot of people are hoping for Randy versus Cody either at SummerSlam, at WrestleMania, you name it.
Yeah. There's just so many other possibilities you could have for bookings between Cody and whoever, right? But it's just because and I know some people were saying like, oh, maybe Cody and CM Punk at 1.2.
Yep.
But I think obviously Rock and Cody is probably going to be the big one that you're going to want to see. But more than likely going to be at WrestleMania, right? Mm-hmm. But, you know, it all really just kind of goes down to the fact that, like, I'm glad that you're seeing these storylines now start to add up even more and even more. And another thing, too, I just appreciate the most about, at least for wrestling and for WWE, is just the amount of people you have room to work with. You have so many different people, so many different wrestlers that you can create storylines with. You can extend storylines. You can cause clashes, whatever. And, you know, say what you will about the ones that have happened, and whether or not they've been successful or not, but at least the ones that we're seeing so far, and how this new era, especially, I know a big part of it, and they weren't even at this event, was the Bloodline, and there's already so much going on with them too, and Tama Tonga and all that stuff as well. So, you know, excited to see how that moves forward as well. But of course, props to the Ring General Gunther for becoming king of the ring. Very, very impressive. Sir. Overall.
I mean, hey, he was my pick. It's well deserved. Excited to see how it goes. I think heels, like the bad guys, always just have better runs as king and queen of the ring. It just works better. And one last point before we do move on to obviously the main event with Sir Cody Rhodes, as you mentioned his name earlier. You brought up the Bloodline, and I would have to fact check this, but now that I think about it, I want to say, like, in the past 3-4 years, or at least as long as Roman Reigns' reign was, I'm curious if this is like the first pay-per-view PLE that didn't feature any of the like Bloodline guys. Yes, it features Sami Zayn, but I'm talking like the Bloodline. Like, there was no Jey Uso, no Jimmy, no Solo, none of the new guys, no Tama Tonga, no Tonga Loa, no Paul Heyman, like, no Rock, obviously. Like, I'm curious, because I feel like, even with Backlash, you at least had Jey, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm curious, like, this might be the first time that, like, they're finally weaning off the Bloodline a little bit. Not saying the Bloodline's not, like, probably the biggest draw in WWE, but kind of just showing, like, hey, we just had a very successful pay-per-view with not a single Bloodline member in it. Cody can draw. Randy Orton can draw. I think Gunther can draw. I would dare even say Sami Zayn can draw. Becky Lynch can draw. You name it. They have so many other stars out there that are not just the Bloodline. So, completely separate point I had to make, but you brought them up and it came to my head, and I had to mention that quick before.
That's fair, yeah. And just one more thing, too, for that is, I mean, I've seen it all the time online, too, but there's so many people that are calling this a really bad era because they're like, my tribal chief's not there, or just because they say Cody's, like, they're kind of saying what Rock says, like, or he's not a champion, he's just a politician, he's just a guy who just happens to go around, he tries to bring up that energy. And this is the same thing with Sami Zayn, like, oh, this dude isn't a champion, but, like, come on, like, if anything, and we just said it too, there was no Bloodline at this event, but it's still, I feel like, still has such good moments in it too, because of how well that Cody and, you know, and Sami have transitioned to champions, at least in my opinion. And because of that, you know, like, the Bloodline is still, you know, will always be popular, but it's just that you can't discredit them for what they're doing right now because of whether or not here or whatever. But
100%.
For real.
And that's not the way to run a company. You can't just, you can always have a poster boy or, like, the number one guy. Like, for years it was Cena. Before that it was Stone Cold. You can even argue it was The Rock. And this year, I mean, this decade, it probably is Roman Reigns. But you still need the other stars, you know? And the other stars can draw. Even when Cena would get injured, you still had Triple H holding down the fort. You had The Undertaker. You had Shawn Michaels. You name it. The list goes on and on. Batista, Randy Orton was still around at that time. So, I think that's the case with this year. Now you got Seth Rollins. You got Cody Rhodes. You got AJ Styles. You name it.
LA Knight.
LA Knight, who got a huge pop once again.
Yeah.
And they showed him. Yeah, you already know how it goes. But like I said, we're trying to trim the fat off these podcasts, so let's not waste any more time.
Let's stop yapping.
And let's go straight to the main event. Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul. A very unique matchup because just, you know, 2 months ago, not even 2 months ago, a month and a half ago at WrestleMania, Logan Paul's sitting up in the arena. Cody, I'm all emotional. He's cheering when Cody finishes the story. All this time later, they're now, and this is what we wanted to say. We almost opened the podcast with this. Who would have thought Cody Rhodes, who started AEW, versus Logan Paul, a YouTuber, main eventing a WWE show, PLE, pay-per-view, in Saudi Arabia for the WWE Championship in 2024. That was not on our bingo card.
Not at all. Like if you went back in time, like maybe not even like, let's say like probably like 2020 or even something, right?
Yeah.
Like way before any of them were in it, right? Like there's no way. Like you would say those names and like someone, like if you tell someone that, they'd start dying of laughter probably. They're like, hell no, bro. It's always gonna be Brock Lesnar. It's always gonna be Roman Reigns at that point too. And it's always gonna be these guys. But like, what the hell? Like I think that is so surreal and it's so unique that like we have something like this.
Yeah.
Like happening and like people are able to witness it, and I think it's drawing in that much more of a crowd as well. Like these, like, you know, I'm a good example of that, right? You're seeing like, you know, these superstars bring in people who you never would have thought of to watch these events, and you know, for this main event in particular, like, oh my gosh, I think one word to describe it, I would say phenomenal. However, there already was a phenomenal match back in France.
Yes.
However, I think if I would describe this match in one word, I think I even said it to you too during this. I think, if anything, it was athletic.
Yep.
It was a display of athleticism, because you seem like, you know, like I always said it too. Give, you know, say whatever the hell you want about Logan Paul, about whatever, but in the ring, the dude is a beast. Like was pulling out all of these, you know, frog splashes, these moonsaults, these agilities. Like moments, you name it, right? And you know, and Cody's doing the same thing too. Cody's not just, you know, his, you know, couple moves and that's it. He was also doing some crazy ass shit. But just overall, the match was cool. And you know, the stipulations definitely did change, because you know, Logan was trying to be sneaky, like, oh, you want to be my USA champion, you want to be a Grand Slam champion, huh? Nice try, buddy. So, I mean, that wasn't up in line, but of course, the undisputed title was. And you know, you can tell me, I'll tell everyone else your thoughts about it too, but for me, I absolutely loved it. I think it was great.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think this, once again, is just another great showing to the Cody Rhodes WWE Championship defense portfolio. Obviously, he's only had 2 big scale matches now between AJ Styles in France, Logan Paul in Saudi Arabia, and they were both bangers. I think Cody and AJ was a superb wrestling match, and I think Cody versus Logan was a superb high energy attraction. I think this match was fun. I think it was high energy. There were some fun spots, like when Logan Paul does the frog splash onto the announce table. Like, that was a great spot. The whole drama of the referee getting taken out and the low blow, but then Cody ends up, you know, blocking out the brass knuckles and hitting the triple crossroads to continue his story, if you know what I'm saying.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it was just, once again, like, the more people say boring Reign, Cody Rhodes is boring, the more they say, like, Cody Rhodes can't put on a good match. Tell me that match wasn't good, man. Tell me that match wasn't good. I agree. It was a damn good match.
It was 100% a good match, and I'll tell you, the other part of it too is just that, like, and you know, going back to Logan Paul, like, he's already such a big name that you're kind of putting into this mix too, and it makes sense, like, to draw in that crowd, but just to see the reaction of the crowd too, and even us, like, you know, just all these movements, and you're seeing, like, you know, their pins, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, could this be it? That type of thing, which I'll say it to you, ultimately, there's no way that Cody was going to lose to Logan Paul. There's no way he was going to lose that title that he worked so hard for, to continue his story, to Logan Paul, man, of all people. But however, you know, same goes for what we were saying before. It's expected, but there's still unexpected stuff that happens. Yeah. One of those also being was, you know, the brass knuckles that I also, that stuck out to me too, was like that interaction with Michael Cole, where he pulled him out, and it's like, you promised you wouldn't use those, and he comes up storming to him and tries to just like, what'd you say? So what you gonna do about it? Yep. And then there was that, and then also one of my favorite moments too was when Cody took the Prime bottle out of Logan's hand, just like hit him in the face, and he said, yeah, fuck Prime, get out of here. Stupid ass Prime, man.
Damn,
I don't know.
Man.
I'll never try it. I'll never try it still.
Hey, man.
Maybe once.
I'm just saying.
You said you had one today, right?
Yeah, that cherry flavor, whatever it is, cherry glacier, whatever you call it. I'm a fan. I did the short on this channel for the first time ever trying Prime, and it was the blue bottle. That shit sucks. That shit's like too damn sweet. The flavor is like I'm trying to think, like picture like a blue Gatorade, but like the flavor's just not good. It's the weirdest thing. Like it's just like you're just drinking and you're like, why? Like who spends money on this? And then I was just like, I'm never trying Prime again. And then at my work they put in the colorful bottle, the Cherry Glacier one, and I was like, that's a cool bottle. I gotta try that. I would drink it. I would drink it again and again and again. Like I mess with it.
Maybe.
So Prime aside, though, you know, like hey, y'all convince all you want about the Prime. Yeah, you gotta give Logan his flowers. He's a damn good character. I think he's a fun U.S. champion. I don't want to say he's a good U.S. champion because at the end of the day, I believe if you're a good champion, you should be there night in, night out, defending, fighting, doing promos. Logan is doing the Roman Reigns schedule, showing up once in a while when he wants. So I can't say he's a good champion, but he's definitely a fun champion and bringing, you know, a lot to WWE between the Prime sponsorships, the big names for the social media clips like Speed, KSI, himself, Jake Paul even. Yeah. He's bringing a lot to WWE, a lot of mainstream attention, a lot of internet community attention, and it's not like it's forced down your throat because he wrestles and you're like, he's damn good, man. Like a face off with Cody Rhodes and Logan Paul. Logan looked legit. That man's jacked. Like he looks like a wrestler. Yeah. He's just naturally gifted with it, and it pains me because I grew up being the biggest Logan Paul hater. And I don't even want to say I like Logan Paul because I don't like Logan Paul the person. I still think he's had so much controversy and whatnot that I can never say I'm a fan. But I just gotta respect his game at the end of the day. And his game is taking wrestling seriously, passionately, and executing it, man. Like he puts on a good match, and I was looking forward to this match. I was like, you know what? Cody and Logan is gonna be fun. And it was exactly what I expected. Obviously, like you said, you know, everyone knew Cody was gonna retain. If and when he does lose inevitably, it was not going to be the Logan Paul. It'll be either the Roman Reigns again, or The Rock, or Gunther, you name it. Like so many other formidable foes that are not Logan Paul. But yeah, it was kind of like, even though you knew he was going to win, let's just see how the match goes. And I think it was a success for sure.
No, very, very fair to say. And, you know, maybe I will have to try Prime one day. Who knows? But besides that, too, I think overall, at least it's a good ending for an event like this as well, just because you already had a lot. You had the tournament, the finals, but then you had also other people trying to defend their titles as well. And ultimately, I think that at the end of the day is what makes a good champion as well, is someone who doesn't shy away from moments where like they are on the spot where they have to defend, no matter who it is too. Like it doesn't matter if it's, you know, it could be AJ Styles, could be Logan Paul, could could be anyone, could even be Seth Rollins, who knows, right? But like at that point, like showing off why you deserve to be the champion, I think, and through defending your title is also just a good way to put some more accolades under your belt, no pun intended. And solely because, you know, Cody's already, you know, he achieved his story, but there's so much more he can still do, and there's so much more he can learn, and so much more he can grow from. And if anything, I'm still excited to see what he's got in store for us for the rest of the year.
Oh yeah, man. And that man is a draw. They are singing his theme song. They are wearing the American Nightmare merch. And even if, you know, like literal ratings wise, maybe he draws a little bit less than Roman Reigns. I don't know the whole business side of things. Yeah. But at the end of the day, even if Roman Reigns is a mega draw, that doesn't mean Cody Rhodes isn't a draw, man. Like the internet wrestling community is tweaking. They be turning on everybody. I will die on this hill. I paid to go to WrestleMania 40 to see Cody Rhodes. I bought my Pharaoh plush to support Cody Rhodes. Very, very soon, I have a plaque coming with a piece of WrestleMania ring canvas celebrating the American Nightmare's win, to always remember that I was there to see him finish the story. I'm a huge Cody Rhodes fanboy, and I am a Cody Rhodes crybaby proudly. I named my whole podcast after the story, okay? With that being said, I'm also very excited to see what Cody continues to do. Obviously, there's so many ways he can go. There's an inevitable feud with Randy Orton. the obvious feud with The Rock. Maybe somewhere down the line, another showcase with Roman. They'll always be great rivals, but obviously you don't want to overdo that too much. Keep it special. Gunther would also be a great foe for him one day, and maybe he'll run it back with AJ Styles. Maybe he'll fight Logan Paul again. There's so much for Cody Rhodes to do, and we might have answers as to what he's doing very soon, because quite a lot of PLEs are coming up. I believe it was in like literally 2 or 3 weeks in June. It might have been Clash at the Castle, I believe.
I think so. Clash at the Castle's up next.
That is up next. Yeah, mid-June is that. I know Money in the Bank is July. SummerSlam will be August. And I might be tweaking, but I swear at some point there was some pay-per-view called like something Berlin. I swear that's in there somewhere.
it might pop up there.
Maybe I'm wrong and tweaking, but I think that's in there. But I'm pretty much 99% sure, 95% sure that Clash of the Castle will be next with the whole. That's Drew McIntyre's show without a doubt. We'll see if Cody gets a match there, or if that's more of like a Raw targeted show. We'll see. But I feel good. I think we just zoomed through the King of the Ring discussion. We tried to keep it a lot shorter than usual. Yet, I think we still got our points in. It was very fun to watch with you once again, Mr. Sky. And thank you for coming on a very special 5th anniversary episode. I guess anniversary? I don't know.
Number 5. Yeah, the anniversary so far. Pretty good. Survived for our 5 episodes so far. So you're already off to a great start.
We're surviving. And yeah, I'm very excited that you are still in it. You know, like I was scared after WrestleMania that maybe you like kind of fall off and stop watching.
I'm done.
Start sleeping. But nah, you over here, adrenaline. You over here singing and everything. So I'm glad as your homie. It's really cool that I finally have one of those N10 boys becoming a passionate wrestling fan. True. Yeah, we'll have to watch Clash at the Castle together. We'll have podcasts likely leading up to it as well as after, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. There probably will be some kind of Double or Nothing podcast following soon, since this weekend has been very busy with wrestling, having King in the Ring followed by AEW's Double or Nothing, so stay tuned. No promises though. We might not do a post podcast, but episode 6 will come to you in time. I can't guarantee what the topic will be about. If you want to see more Night Sky, make sure you subscribe. This man's over on Twitch. Give him all the love. He will continue to come on the podcast so long as he continues to agree.
True. Of course. I'm always down to talk wrestling and anything and all sorts of things, entertainment. You know it.
Hell yeah. And with that being said, I hope the story continues for you, for Cody Rhodes, for Triple H, for all of WWE, hell, even for AEW. After all, this is an AEW CM Punk shirt. For all wrestling fans, I hope the story will continue. The story will continue for us in episode 6. So until then, peace out. Any final remarks? Thank you so much again for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you, of course. Nothing else except the Phillies won. Happy about that.
And the Celtics won. And Liv Morgan.
Mommy, come save me, please. Mommy, please. Mommy.
All right, cut it. Cut the podcast.
Get out of here. Get out.